Football is quite an amazing thing, and so is the universe when you think about the circumstances around what happened Wednesday. The chances of getting drawn against a team are pretty slim when there's that many in the pool, and we get the club we happened to beat in the European Cup final in 1982 at home, and then 2 weeks before that game, we lose an integral member of that team. And then we go on and beat Bayern Munich by 1-0, same scoreline, on an astounding goal to keep us undefeated in the initial phase of this tournament. I mean, if you were to script write that, people would go, come on, it's a bit much, isn't it? Presented by 24/7 Services. I'm not even drinking any tipple this morning. This is coffee because I'm recording in the morning. But let's review Aston Villa 1, Bayern Munich 0. Welcome inside the parlor. You know how much I love stats and sub-stories. Well, the last time Bayern Munich lost in the initial phase of Champions League, before it was the group stage, obviously, now it's this new league format, why, it was 2017 to PSG, managed by Unai Emery, which means that Unai has defeated the Bavarian Giants in European competitions 3 times with 3 different clubs. We're 3-0 against Vincent Kompany. He's really no match, though, is he? I mean, this was his first difficult week in charge. Let's see how the players respond, because I'm still not sure about that one. Next up for us is Bologna on the 22nd of this month, the Illing Junior Derby. Win that game, and we'd have to have a real stinker in the final 5 to drop out of that crucial top 8 spot. Oh, to have been there would have been amazing. I call this the Holy Trinity Show because Trinity means 3, and there were many moments or issues to review, but I'm trying to narrow down the 3 key issues or moments as Villa dispatched one of the favorites to win this tournament by 1-0. On hand at Villa Park to experience the game of a lifetime were our 2 senior correspondents, Samir Gaby in his very fancy pro version of the new 3rd kit down in the lower Holt, and then a few rows behind him, Alex Dutton from the band Atarka, providing exceptional video for this show, which I deeply appreciate. Now, I don't know about our 2 correspondents, or you for that matter, but ever since I was a kid, I often would get these tension headaches after watching games like this, just from the stress of it all. And those last few minutes were stressful. With the key numbers, we played a team with 20 national team representatives worth just under $1 billion euro, and the stats bore that out in most categories except for the most important one. We rarely got into great goal-scoring areas, even on the goal. Low shots on target, no big chances created, low passing percentage, but my special stat was duels won, and the ground duels in brackets. And we ended up edging those in a game where Unai Emery said we'd have to win a lot of individual duels. Also, Villa, 27 clearances to Bayern's 5. On the clearance front, it was a very good day for our Diego Carlos, who got an awful lot of stick after the 2-2 draw at Ipswich. Maybe the only blemish on the game was that handball late, which gave us a final deep clenching in our down belows. But Diego won both of his ground duels. He was very tidy and consistent on both his short and long passing, and he won 4 of those 27 clearances. It's weird how we have a tough time keeping it clean at the back at a newly promoted side away, but bring in Bayern Munich. Oh, clean sheet, no problem. Minor issue, and I realize we played one of the world's elite midfields, but this was the first time since coming on as a sub, Ross Barkley had subpar numbers, and I think that's thanks to a couple of reasons. First of all, his teammates were gassed. And so when he won possession back and tried to break away, there were simply no options. And, the other one, he was trying to catch up to the speed of a very intense game and against a team that is known for pressing hard all around the midfield. So he did turn the ball over often, which was adding to the tension of it all. But that's inconsequential given the final result. Slightly troubling issue is our squad health already to this point in the season. It's just October. We saw the precise moment where Jacob Ramsey tweaked something, likely groin, as he was stretching to clear the ball in touch on the near side television sideline. And Leon Bailey was left out of this one for a reason. He was doing dynamic stretching on his own in the pregame warm-up. I was surprised when he came on because you would have thought Ian Matson could have just come straight in as a left-sided player swap at that point. It was really obvious in the second half that something's not right with Leon Bailey, because every time it looked like he tried to break away, there was no explosiveness in his sprint, no pop like we usually see. And when he first came on, he couldn't keep possession to save his life. He was being smothered on the right-hand side. In the end, he played only about 32 minutes. Let's hope he didn't do further damage to whatever was ailing him. Now we have Matt Cash, Tyrone Mings, Boubacar Kamara on the horizon coming back. So how will we look on Sunday? And then maybe more importantly, how will we look after this international break? Because it's been a long time since we've had a fully fit squad. Major issue, of course, it always is squad selection, and it was Jadon Philogéne's first start for Aston Villa since a Carabao Cup game at Barrow. Remember that one a couple of years ago? And of course, Jadon was taking pelters after the Ipswich game, even as a substitute. But I'm now convinced that Jadon Philogéne is one of those players who simply excels when he's playing with and against better players. He had a tough assignment. He was playing on both flanks against maybe the best players he's going to come up against this season when you think about it. We've always known he's quick. He can scoot, and he's a very creative player, so he's unpredictable to the opponent. But maybe, just maybe, this was his launchpad game, because he more than held his own. Big moment, the Upamecano foul on Ollie Watkins, his second in the game, which might have been the denial of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. A lot of my Bayern friends messaged me saying we got away with one there. And the Dogzo checklist includes, the distance of the ball away from the two players. Well, it was playable and it was in distance, check there. Cover defensively? Don't know, because the two Bayern defenders were wide of the incident, and Manuel Neuer, for once, was nowhere to be seen. I think the only out for our Romanian referee was the distance to goal. But I'm shocked that VAR didn't at least send him to the monitor to have a look, because that was a big moment, and Watkins would have been away. Now, the footballing karma counter decision might have been the Ezri Konsa non-handball decision, which required a very lengthy and uncomfortable check by VAR, and I was positive Bayern Munich was going to get that penalty there. But the ball clearly looked like it skipped off his lower body first, then hit his arm, which he was tucking in at the time. Still, though, the longer that went on, the more my sphincter was puckering tightly. Big moment, the disallowed goal. What a shame. Interesting, too, that at that stage, Jacob Ramsey was already favoring his groin, it looked like, and he was the one judged to be offside, and he was kind of looking right across the line, which is disappointing. But then he went and retrieved the ball, and that started the sequence, which ended with Pau Torres poking it into the far corner. That would have been a great moment for him. What a shame. Just before we get to the top three, it's a great sign in a partnership when several people reach out to me directly and say, somebody's going to have to call Paul Handsaker and 24/7 Services because parts of the Villa Park roof blew off when big Jhon Duran scored. That's great news, because that shows that there is a paired association between Holy Trinity Show, 24/7 Services, and the immediate thought to roofing. Great news. That would be what Paul and his team call a reactive job, going to fix the Villa Park roof, kind of like this incredible call from just a couple of days ago at one of their big clients, the Co-op grocery chain in Milne Row, where some poor person thought that that particular location was a drive-through. And the reason why big companies like the Co-op chain and Network Rail contract 24/7 Services is because they are dependable, reliable, trustworthy at all hours of the day and night. I mean, this site here is unsecured. This needs immediate attention, and Paul and the team were there. Now that is on top of all the other jobs and projects they have going on, and I love the domestic fun projects, the bathrooms and the kitchens and all that, but this is where the rubber meets the road. So if you are a big business owner who watches this show and you don't use 24/7 Services and I find out about it, I'm going to be a little annoyed, frankly. Big issue number 3, courageous culture. You probably weren't expecting that one. But what is culture? Culture is consistent behavior demonstrated over a long period of time. And this may be the biggest overarching theme surrounding Aston Villa and why we're in the position we're in, and it manifested itself on Wednesday night. You may have noticed there was some build-up to this game. I mean, as an Aston Villa fan, you could not notice the build-up. It was weeks in the making, but even casual observers that weren't following Aston Villa closely were intrigued by the prospects of this game. If you've been a Villa fan for a very long time, or you've only just recently latched onto the club, you will still be able to recall in the recent past opportunities where, with a Villa win, even at home, they could have put some breathing space between themselves and the teams behind them, or they could have tried to reel in some of the clubs ahead of them, and they've stumbled. And that's on top of numerous cup games. I mean, since I've been doing this show, I can't even sit here and list all the times we have stumbled at opportune moments. So you already have this great story of Bayern Munich, a power club in the Champions League, but the added complexity of the historical link for us. And the commercial department's doing its job. It is stoking the flames by pushing out massive amounts of content, which is their job. Try to get clicks, try to get impressions, try to spread the word of Aston Villa Football Club, and try to get eyeballs on that particular game. And that only increases expectation from certain fans in what is basically a statement occasion. And most people simply don't understand how all that expectation could be a burden on the technical staff and the players who are being asked to go out and deliver. And here's where the loss to Olympiacos at home last year might have been a very valuable experience, as painful as it was for some of our players. And it made them realize how carefully you have to prepare and then concentrate and be focused in 90 minutes of a game like this one. And I know that we would have had a very carefully crafted and coherent plan for Bayern Munich, but still, the game is not played on a tactical whiteboard. It is played by human beings who have to somehow block out all the noise and remain dialed in on what's to come. And our players delivered on Wednesday. This massive cultural shift, almost revolution, is incredibly down to one man, the greatest signing in club history. That's indisputable at this point. Unai Emery is the greatest signing in Aston Villa's history because he leads without ego. He expects and demands accountability from everybody around him, and he meticulously prepares his players. And that's why they have confidence going into a game like Wednesday. They know exactly what to expect from the opponent, and their role in the game is 100% crystal clear. And because we've almost been through 2 years of this now, including a previous European campaign, the players now have experience. But ultimately, when you talk about how he includes the supporters in the process and how he respects the alumni and the history, we are now becoming a football club that is built around this really, really important word, which is humility. There was a funny moment, I don't know if you caught it, that really demonstrated how far we've come in just under 2 years. Aaron Danks is on the Bayern Munich staff. I had no idea. And he was lobbying the fourth official very, very hard, which Unai Emery took exception to, saying that their whole staff was doing too much complaining and lobbying. And you don't often see Unai Emery getting into those kinds of circumstances. But Danks was the last guy to lead Villa before Emery, and I just wonder if at any point during that 4-0 win at home to Brentford or the heavy loss after at Newcastle, whether he could have ever imagined working for Bayern Munich and playing Aston Villa in a Champions League game at Villa Park, which the Bavarian Giants would lose. Big issue number 2. Debu's denials. Here we had a matchup of 2 of the last 3 World Cup winning goalkeepers. And it just seems like in situations like these, the big game occasions, a switch goes on in Emi Martinez's head. And where he has to grow as a goalkeeper is that switch needs to be on also at games like at Ipswich Town, even though he made a number of great saves in that game. So it's the big game goalkeeping we have that literally allows Aston Villa fans to think bigger and dream bigger in this competition along with the players in front of him. Because remember, Munich is hosting the Champions League final in 2025. Bayern expects to be there. There is no room for dropped points anywhere during this journey, and Emi Martinez is a major reason why we blanked them on Wednesday. Mentality and reputation aside, Debu made 3 really big saves in this game, starting with the one off Michael Elise in the later stages of that first half. And just like the one at Ipswich with Calvin Phillips, his feet were already moving as that strike was in the air. And I know he's right-handed, so he favors that side anyway, but still, those are really hard for goalkeepers, the ones that kind of go over and back. And he catches up to it effortlessly and makes it look routine, tipping it over the bar. Great save. The next one was quintessential Emi Martinez reading the danger early, coming off his line fast, making himself big, and providing a block on Serge Gnabry, who was extremely effective in that second half. And this was from a through ball by Jamal Musiala. Now, he looked a little bit offside. I never saw a replay of it. But Emi was not to know, and he wasn't going to take any chances. And this was in the first minute of added time. So just after this, Martinez goes down, as he often does, when he has that sense that the game is getting a little bit helter-skelter and everybody just needs a breath and a beat. And then perhaps the best was saved for last. At least maybe it was the most consequential save because it came from a very close range Harry Kane header. This was after a short corner routine and a great ball in by Joshua Kimmich, who sent it right onto the head of Kane, who's right on the doorstep. And Emi Martinez swats it away. And I sometimes wonder, because I remember as a player, sometimes you get this little anticipation or premonition of where the ball's going to go and you get a jump on it because he just swats it away. Have you seen Harry Kane score a goal from that range with his head against a goalkeeper that's just motionless because it's so close to the goal? I have. And that one at the end just nearly blew the roof off of Villa Park because there are some times when you just know it's going to be your day. And that was the moment. And I want to remind you of a tone-setting moment early in this game that most people either dismissed or forgot about when Emi Martinez denied the chronically trophyless Harry Kane for a very good chance that eventually was flagged for offside. Of course, neither player would have known at that stage, and Martinez made the stop. Now, I can tell you as a former crap goalkeeper, there's a huge psychological difference in that kind of matchup, star striker, star goalkeeper, between making that save and picking the ball out of the back of the net, whether it counts or not. And Emmy Martinez threw down the marker. It was a harbinger of things to come. And the number one big moment that defined Villa 1, Bayern 0, obviously Duran's dagger. Seriously though, if you're Jhon Duran, are you honestly knocking on Unai Emery's door every 5 minutes asking for more game time? Why mess with what's happening at the moment? Jhon Duran has 5 game-winning goals, 6 goals in total, from just 9 games in all competitions. I mean, that's delving into prolific numbers at this stage. And I defy you to find a more incredible story in all of world football than Duran's right now. I mean, you've got a guy who is on the brink, the cusp of leaving us in the summer, probably with no regrets from either side either, to now earning us massive points as a 20-year-old, and he doesn't look like a 20-year-old. We all knew that Jhon Duran had the mechanics of a beautiful striker of the ball. He had that at Chicago. He had that before Chicago. And last year, you remember the goal against Crystal Palace at home. We all know that he has beautiful technique when striking a ball, but now there's other things that are more nuanced coming into his game. And I hate the tag generational this and generational that, because people throw those words around like confetti without having a clue. But now I'm actually coming around to this tag of generational striker. Now, on the game-winning goal, 2 things had to happen before the actual strike on target. And the first one is that Duran had to time his run perfectly, which he did. There's a moment of a split-second eye contact between he and Pau Torres. He breaks, and Torres plays the perfect ball, fizzed into the only place, really, where it could have gone. And this is Torres's talent. This is why we have him in our team. Then, as you know, Manuel Neuer revolutionized goalkeeping by being active. And this issue came up in the tactical preparations for this game. They predicted that this could happen. So before the ball even arrives at Duran's feet, he has a little look up to see where the goalkeeper is. After that, it's almost automatic at this stage. How many times have I already said this season? He always knows exactly where the goal is and exactly where the goalkeeper is. And then it's just a matter of figuring out the technique, which is like this menu that pops up in his head, and it's instantly calibrated and computed, and boom, we have our historical moment. Okay, it's not Peter with, how great is this photo, by the way, shared with me by Jerry O'Halloran. But what it gives us is maybe the greatest gift of all, belief and hope. Not to mention a moment that we'll never forget in our entire lives. All Jhon Duran, his family, and his representatives ever wanted was for people to know his name, for him to be counted on in big games, providing goals, and hopefully going on and winning things. And now he's doing just that, and in far fewer minutes than most people would have ever expected. Playing against tired legs, by the way, is always going to be helpful. But a happy Jhon Duran is going to lead to a healthy Aston Villa. Is he going to start? Yes, he is. Is he the heir apparent to Ollie Watkins? He might be in the future, which could give Aston Villa tremendous financial flexibility. But for now, let's enjoy what's happening. And I wouldn't be surprised if we hear about a contract extension for this player in the coming months. The Silhill Brewery star performer, unquestionably and undeniably, Emmy Martinez. I listed his catalog of accomplishments earlier. 7 saves, 10 recoveries. I would love to pour Big Emmy a Holy Trinity Show ale, which was poured for the first time at the taproom in Aston on Wednesday. And these 2 gentlemen, apologies for not having your names, were the first to try it. Positive reviews. Thank you so much. I realize you have options before and after games to go and have some suds. And what Silhill Brewery promises you is fantastic beer at great prices in a great vibe. And I know it's going to be tricky because the kickoff time Sunday is awkward, but there's still lots of time afterwards to go, hopefully to celebrate a victory against Manchester United. And I've also posted tickets to the Silhill Brewery Oktoberfest celebrations in the description of this video. The afterglow of that win, the joy, the emotion, the relief, the hope, the optimism, all of that can be wiped out by Sunday evening with another loss to Manchester United. And the old Villa would conspire in precisely this manner. Now, I'm recording this in the morning. I'm going to go watch Manchester United at Porto afterwards, which means they have 24 hours less to prepare for Sunday's tilt than we do. I would highly recommend that if Aston Villa truly has designs on a title chase, or at the very least, maintaining Champions League football next season, then it might be a good idea to not go 0 for 6 points against United or 0 for 6 points against Newcastle. How is it that we could have just beaten one of the best teams in the world on a Champions League Wednesday night, and yet this mythical Manchester United bogey team thing still hangs heavy over our heads? And that was only reinforced further by the reinstatement of Bruno Fernandes. Oh my goodness. How comically bad is Premier League refereeing, VAR deployment, and then supplemental reviews? I mean, it's as if one entity just conspires to undermine the other. In no other industry in the world could you operate this way and get away with it? So Bruno's in for Sunday, which means in stoppage time in the second half, he'll stomp on Ezri Konsa's ankle and somehow earn a penalty for it. Now, in an alternate Aston Villa universe, we cobble together a fit squad for Sunday and then show the same kind of discipline, commitment, energy, desire, and then timely ruthlessness, and get ourselves another win this week, which would then have to go down as one of the best weeks in the Unai Emery era, despite how disappointed so many people were with just a single point at Ipswich Town. Right now, Manchester United feels like a club to me that is just on the brink of something. I mean, the spending under Erik ten Hag does not justify the table position, and there is still no discernible on-field identity of any kind. It feels like the vultures are circling around the manager, and their new CEO, Omar Barada, who crossed the street to join United, has thrown down the gauntlet and said, by 2028, we're going to win a title. And it just feels like the triggered Villa fan in me expects Ten Hag to be fired, and that on Sunday we'll have Ruud van Nistelrooy in the dugout for the Red Devils, and he'll get an instant response from his team. But what if, no matter who's in charge on Sunday, what if we win again? And we do make this a memorable week in Aston Villa's modern history. Heading into an international window, we would have permagrins for the entire length of that window. And October would start in the most spectacular fashion, keeping in mind we have 6 games this coming month, 5 of them at Villa Park, with only one exception, a trip to Craven Cottage. I don't need to tell you to savor what happened on Wednesday night, because that is now banked as an all-time folkloric moment in the modern history of this club. But I will tell you to remain positive, be well, and of course, and as always, up the mighty Villa!